Welcome, everybody, to the Wheel of Bliss podcast. I'm your co host with Jason Demchok. I'm John Lenhart. And today we are going to start our season 2 of the Wheel of Bliss podcast. Now, if you're familiar, we have 8 episodes. We now call it season 1, where I interviewed Jason and understood his background. So during this season, we're not going to really talk about that background in detail. If you have any questions about that, you can always refer to season 1. The purpose of season 2 is what we said at the end of season 1. The goal of the season is to go deeper into Jason's understanding by using my models of the mind and brain so that we will be able to understand Jason's model for everything in season 3. So I am telling you right now that Jason has this incredible model that we both want to share with the world, but it takes some foundation, it takes some understanding to get there. And that's really what season 2 is about. So all 8 episodes in season 2 are going to cover something that'll eventually contribute to that model. So in this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a version of my model that Jason modified to kind of explain what we're looking for in viewers and what this podcast is really all about. So you'll see, it'll show up on the screen, the overview of the model. So if you look at the model on the left column has 4 levels. And really it's the 4 thought processes. So the bottom level, we call it harmful. I would call that the 320 thought process or dysregulation. Then there's unconscious, which is pretty obvious. And then conscious. And then Jason titles it the optimizing, I would say the creative thought process. But those are the 4 thought processes from the higher one to the low one. And then going across the top, we are going to cover each of these columns one at a time. So the first one we're going to cover is physical. And what I'm asking you to do is as we go through these 4 attributes under the physical column, see which one of these 4 squares you spend most of your time. Okay, so let's get started. You ready, Jason?
Yep.
Okay, so at the bottom in the harmful level physical is hedonistic. Do you want to explain what that means?
Sure. So first, I'll just say, like, the physical really represents that deep, healthy desire we all have for security. And again, I said in a previous season about how people mistake money for security, but real security is having a healthy body, which is like your first home that you live in, and then having a healthy home where you're safe from the elements. And, in our world, having money in the bank, having, because money is like if you need to get healthcare or something, right? So when we're talking about physical insecurity here, we're talking about content that you're consuming related to people giving advice, people discussing principles on how to be secure.
Perfect.
So that includes health advice, it includes business advice, financial advice, just overall, solid
Earth
advice.
advice.
What's that?
It's earth advice. It's underneath
Exactly.
the earth, right? Solid advice. I like that. Solid advice.
Yeah, practical. Earth is very practical. So yeah. So the hedonistic content is basically like I think of this content where it's like they're taking like a pizza and then they're putting like 100 hamburgers on top and then French fries and then like more cheese and then they're big. So it's just like no consideration for the harm that it's being done to yourself or others, really.
Wow.
So these are like the
Okay.
pranks, just like things that information that is all about, all that matters is no consequences of your actions. All that matters is that, I guess you quote unquote enjoy it.
So if any of the viewers, that's most of their content, they should have clicked off of this right now or even before that. So the second level up, and I like to look at these as effects. This second level is really the effects. It's a looking at the effects. you have old wives' tales. What do you mean by that?
I should probably change that. It's not very 2025, but this is like where I find, I think we both agree that most people are in this level across the board, this unconscious level. So what this is where I find most people get their information from these days. It's like Facebook. They see this thing pop up a lot, which could be because a marketing person, a group of people, a lobbyist group, big agra, big, whatever is pumping something. So they have their influencers being pumped. So these are people who just see this carbs are bad for you, or like, and they're really just like, there's no why. There's no why. Where the conscious, there's a why, but there's no how in your model, right? So
Right.
there's not even a why here. They don't even know why. It's just like, well, everybody knows that. That would be their response. It says, well, why do you think that? Like, that's the funny thing, because most people are there. And one way to find out if someone really has any idea what they're talking about, you ask them, well, why do you know that? Well, why is that true? I'm sorry. Why is that true? How do you know? This is getting back to epistemology. Did you
Right.
work this out? Did you come to like a conclusion based on evidence and a flow of logic? And most of the time it's no. So that's a
Right. So
long answer.
this is that oversimplified area. So this is one of the you're right. I like what you said, is that I like to say 94% of people are actually on this unconscious level. So the overwhelming majority of people are here. We're not going to have a million people watch our podcast because a million people aren't, the million people are in that category, and our podcast clearly isn't in that category. But this is kind of what caused you to not enjoy the food stuff as much, is because people approached you in this mindset when it came to food, right?
Exactly. And you could also say it's other reasons. It's just like my uniqueness, but yeah, it's really, I mean, you could say it's almost with everything these days, the information, a lot, like, again, a lot of people are here, you know, but yes, food is next level here. I mean, and it's such an important thing. We all know it's important, and it's like it's so primal. Like, I want to survive, but I remember they used to make the joke. It was like, one day broccoli's good for you, next day like you'd watch the news. It's like, this new study just came out. Remember, there was like 7 channels, and it was like, new study just came out. Broccoli might be causing cancer, and then like 2 years later, turns out broccoli cures cancer. So everybody is so overwhelmed, and again, the big pharma, and they're happy to keep you here,
Right. Right.
because you're not thinking. You're and so even if you see an influencer, this is where it gets very tricky. Even if you see influencers who are criticizing big pharma, but they're selling a product which is still owned by big pharma, but it's a natural product. It's this, they just want you not thinking and not really getting healed. And
Right.
again, you could say, if you're at this level, you're kind of asking for it.
Right. Right. So this is what's so tricky about it, is
It is.
people are asking us. So what we're hoping is people have moved out of that. The next level, you have 2-hour podcasts and biased research. This is more the marketing area, but at least you're trying to think and get information.
Exactly. So this person can give you a why. You ask them, so why do you think carbs are bad for you? And they can string together a flow of logic. They're saying, like, it is bad for you because of this, and this is bad. And you say, well, why is that bad? Because of this. They might have like 2 things down. Like, this is bad for you because of this. Why is that bad for you? Because of this. Why is that bad for you? I don't know. So, you know what I mean? So they don't understand what you call the how. I would call it like the why of the why, like one level down. But I like the how. It makes sense. It's so again, if you listen to Joe Rogan, he's pushing he's pushing this evolutionary theory. We evolved from these hunter gatherers, and the strong people hunted, so therefore we got our big brains from eating a lot of meat. So if you're in the Joe Rogan sphere, all the ads are going to be saying it, and I do see it. It's very funny because like you, I'm in many different circles, because I like to think of myself in the optimizing level here, where I want to take everything in. If you have a podcast with millions of people listening, I'm curious for myself. Is there something I'm missing? And also, I want to know how these millions of people are going to be thinking when I approach them. And sure enough, whether it's this guy, Joe Rogan, or someone else, I meet their followers, I pretty much know how they're going to think on every single topic.
Right. Right. That's what that's a great point, because that's what this model really does, is it really helps you when you talk to somebody, you can kind of check these boxes as we go across, and then you
Right.
do kind of know exactly where people are going. That's a great observation.
Yeah, yeah. So this again, this is, you've read a book or you've listened to a 2-hour podcast, you even maybe got some merchandise and you're doing it, like disciplinedly, but you never looked at the opposite. You never looked at the people that Joe Rogan's making fun of. So you have like a one-sided view.
Right. So that brings us to the optimizing this top 5% of experts. And I like what you're saying. This is, the scientific method is you prove things contrastively. You can
Right.
explain the opposite perspective. What's strong about that? What's weak about it? What's strong about your position or weak? Those are the people who are really secure enough to talk about what they know, because they do understand the other side rather than just yelling and screaming about their side.
Exactly. And John, this is my passion. And with you, I would love to teach people this contrastive thinking. It's the whole debate. It's scientific method. Um, what was I going to say though? Well, yeah, like I use the example of like Dr. Lou, like people who are in this category, they have done things very rigorously the mainstream way, like one way. And they were able to admit that they were wrong, like this thing is not right, and then be curious about all these other perspectives. Well, what does Chinese medicine say? What does Ayurveda say? What are they doing in Europe? And then just, like, and again, yeah, that's what I was going to say too. The key to contrastive thinking is anytime someone tells you something like, oh, don't you know that if you eat grapes, you'll never, I remember in Japan, they have this old wives' tale that if you eat 3 grapes a day, you don't lose your memory. Like, and I'm like, why do you guys believe that? Like, I thought it was so silly until I came back to America and I realized we're just as crazy. We have just as many old wives' tales here. But what was I going to say? Yeah. So anytime someone says anything, you could be, that's interesting. Where did you hear that from? Oh, there's this person who promotes that. Okay. So I'm going to take it in with skepticism. As I'm listening, I'm looking for what sounds logically sound and what doesn't. And then now we have AI. I mean, you could really, yeah, I'm hoping that AI, like, I think it's going to make some people less critical thinkers, but I think like there'll be more people who will be open to what we're going to teach them with this contrastive thinking.
So we finished one column, and I want to make the point you're just making, and I want to. We can see this in this column, and then you're going to see it in every other column. So that top level is really uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable level. So if you look at it, most of the world is at that unconscious level. The really smart people that everybody thinks are smart are at that conscious level. And then when you look at that optimizing level, people tend to go, well, I think they're conspiracy theory people. They're on the fringe. They're the inventors. They're the pioneers. And people don't accept what they're saying. And they've got to keep pursuing. That's one of the things. Dr. Lou is definitely at the top of that, at the top of this column. And it was very uncomfortable for her to do what she did early on. And you talked about that with your interactions with her. So that's one of the things I want to help, our viewers understand is I hope everybody can at least check that they're in the conscious box. And then as we go across, what would it take for you to move up to the optimizing? Because we realize it's uncomfortable, and we're going to talk about a lot of uncomfortable things in this podcast. So that's a good overview. So let's go to the next one, the emotional level. This is the water level. You would say it's connection. You want to explain why that's connection?
Yeah, it's like, think about, it's also attention or an affection. Let me explain why. Because like a baby's crying, then the mother looks at it, gives it its attention, it stops crying. There is a force in attention. It is so powerful. And so connection is like this force. I think you wouldn't like this definition of love, but I think a lot of people call that love. Everything is love. Love is what connects us all. Well, we can come up with a word for it, but it's this connection. this intimacy. I like the word
Oh, I
intimacy.
like that.
Yeah.
Intimacy.
Like, and you could be on the other side of the world and you could feel intimacy with somebody and they could be right next to you and you feel nothing. So yeah, this is, again, these all are healthy desires. These desires, because you hear in Buddhism, oh, you got to get rid of your desires. These desires are going to make you the best possible you, which in Buddhism you're here to help all beings. As a Christian, you're here to help beings. This idea is these desires are very healthy. So it's a hard concept for people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
so
the
that this is yeah. So this is think of all of them as an energy that we give and receive, and we could
oh,
also attempt to steal. So the lowest level is like the stealing level.
so that's manipulation. So that's what we have
Exactly.
written here.
So yeah,
Manipulation.
so this is stealing that attention because we all love that attention because it's healing. And some people like are uncomfortable with attention, but but that's what I think of with the water. So yeah, so the manipulation content is these. There's on the masculine side, there's like these pickup artists, how to
Yep.
seduce a woman, how to manipulate a woman into having sex with you, and then on the other side, I told you like off air that the growing up with my mother and my sister and like the Cosmo magazines, when it's like how to get a man to fall in love with you in like 7 easy steps. It's like so that would be down there, and all types of just manipulation. Like you could say like sale. A lot of the sales training is down here. It always made me feel so uncomfortable. Like you meet someone like, oh, we do this sales training. I'm like, yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable. I know there's a lot of manipulation. No. Our thing is different. And then you take their thing, and sure enough, they're like, well, make them feel uncomfortable here, and then you sell them the solution, and then tell them that if they don't pay now, they're gonna have to spend two. And I'm like, this feels ethical to you? Like, yeah, but they need your product, so of course you want to force them to get it. So that's what I
Perfect.
think.
Perfect description. Next level up is feel good media.
Again, this is where most people are at. You walk around, everybody's smiling. Oh, did you see the last episode of this? So this is yeah.
You actually have described this as brainwashing,
Yeah.
which I think it is because again, it's not thinking. It's really not thinking, walking around like a zombie.
And
Um,
it's making you feel like it's a way to feel good without actually creating the causes for positive emotion. So it's manipulating you to produce that oxytocin, that endorphin, because that's what the water represents is oxytocin, endorphin. Like they all have neurotransmitters. We'll talk about that too. But
mhm.
but yeah, so it's getting people to release that without actually getting the oxytocin by being nice to someone, giving them a hug, reaching out to family members, all that stuff.
Right. So it's just feel good to feel good, like as a cause. The next level up is pop psychology, which are these fads. Again, this information, it kind of seems to make sense. They kind of seem to have a why behind it.
Yeah, they read a book on it. They can tell you, I read this book, The Four Agreements. Great books, don't get me wrong, but these become like the be all end all. And everything and what I find with people in this area is they're always diagnosing you with something. It's like there's no happiness. It's like everybody, like you either have avoidant attachment, like, and I ask these people, like, do you know anybody who has healthy attachment? Like everybody, according to you, is something. It's like, and then there's like people who stack these up. So I'm neurodivergent and I'm this and I'm this and I'm this. And again, I empathize and yeah, the mind is as I went through my panic attacks, I've been through depression, anxiety. Like I understand the mind is painful, but I also, from these 20 plus years of working with the mind, I can tell you that the mind is trainable. There's
Right.
even in the debate world, there's a saying that like anything anything true can be discovered, and like anyone can develop reasoning. So like you could, so it's in other words like, oh, I'm not smart enough to learn reasoning. Reasoning will make you smart.
Right.
It's like going, yeah, anyway. So that's,
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. So the last level is you've termed it as the saints. I see this as resilient people,
mm,
people who have mastered their emotions.
exactly, yes. Um, this is, like I put you in this category. This is people who have understood that people have this uniqueness and understand the mind and the emotions and yeah, like you said, resistance and well regulated. Um,
Yeah.
so
So
yeah,
if you look at when you look at the audience, when you look at how you're rating yourself, are you really take a moment and be tough on this? Because what do you like watching? Where do you like feeling connected or getting your information? Is it, oh, they're going to teach me how to be sneaky with other people? Is it I'm just scrolling and looking just to feel good? Is it I'm trying to learn something? Or is it I'm actually trying to apply it? Because one of the things you said in season one that was really huge is psychology. People who take psychology are tend to trying to they have problems, and rather than focus on fixing themselves, they want to learn how to fix everybody else. Whereas in Buddhism, you don't go fixing anybody else until you fix yourself. So this would be like, are you really fixing yourself and getting there? And Geshe-la's definitely in that category. You definitely learned from him in that category. So that's the level. It's really uncomfortable, but that's what we're hoping to do is we're looking for people in the audience who want to move up to they really do experience this resiliency themselves.
thank you. I just wanted to add to that. That's really what it is. Like people talk the talk, but these are the people who, whether it's through Christianity, through Buddhism, they genuinely on a deep level like know that to help others is to help yourself. And they're teaching you if you want to, because again, we're trying to get to the top to have bliss. These like when you're at the top level, you're going to be happier and more efficient in everything you do. What was I going to say? These are people who understand that when you do the opposite of manipulation, when you actually give that attention, you're going to be rewarded from karma, from God. So the people who really understand that, they on that level.
Yeah, it is literally the opposite. I like that. That's really great. So the next level, the energetic, the fire level, the confidence. Do you want to explain how you look at this level?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because yeah, the more I think about it, um, I like the word self-esteem for here. This is the
Nice.
level of self-esteem, and the highest level, the superheroes, is being in flow.
Right. Right.
Each
So
one of these, each one of these is a different type of flow, actually. So when you're in the top, you're in a flow state, but this is what I think traditionally people think of as flow.
I
It's
love
this
that.
one. It's when your
I love that.
uniqueness. It's like when you're selfish, I've learned this from you. It's like when you are able, like the higher level of this, the more you're able to know and express your uniqueness without fear, and and when you do that, you'll get great feedback. But it's scary to, like you said, they're all scary at first to get to that top level. Once you get to the top level, it's not scary anymore.
Right. So I say self-esteem is confidence in your uniqueness. There's four levels. The lowest level is no self-esteem, which is basically you take pleasure in other people's, pain. So in the bottom level, we have shameless.
Yeah, your thing perfectly fits with this. So what do you said it's people who have no self-esteem?
Yeah, no self-esteem.
Exactly.
So what is shameless?
So yeah, they have no they have no value for their uniqueness whatsoever. No value. So yeah, so shameless content is is like really almost like disempowering other people. Like so you could think of the energetic. The superheroes are empowering. The top level is empowering other people, help encouraging their uniqueness to come out. This is like shameless is like making fun of people, like bullying almost, making fun of people for their uniqueness content.
Right. Right. So this is like setting off a firecracker and throwing it into a restaurant or something.
Exactly.
Seeing all these people, that's yeah. So you're taking pleasure in other people. Whereas low self-esteem is
Hmm.
you're just looking for energy. You're just looking for likes. You still don't know your uniqueness. And we have obnoxious in this level.
Yeah, that's it. Like there's a little bit of esteem, there's a little bit of a self, but it's still so low that it will do anything to get attention, even though it's not the real you. It's like you're making up these different things. You're imitating other people to be cool. Like, yeah, and you see this all. Yeah, again, this is where most people. This is where most people are at. 90. You say 94. I say 93.
Yeah, the thing is, this is where a lot of these big influencers, people look at online, these big influencers have the big platform and they think that they're like mid or high self-esteem. And I always go, they're low self-esteem. They will do whatever it takes to get a like.
Yeah.
They're trying to get confidence, not who they are. They don't even know who they are, but they just want the confidence. And so give me the confidence by liking me. And it's like, who's liking you? Should you even be liked by these people? When we look at low self-esteem with kids, this is well, if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge? This is the peer pressure level
Right.
type of
Right.
thing. Whereas the next level up, you have the word leaders. I call this mid self-esteem. These are people who know who they are and they're not fully confident, like you've already said, the superheroes, but they are confident in this. And when it comes to raising kids, we want our kids to be in this category, believe it or not. We want them to really think highly of their teacher or their parent or their coach affirming them. There's
Hmm.
another level beyond it, but we seem to be happy with this is an amazing level. We want people to be here at this leader level.
Yeah, and whenever I think of conscious, like the unconscious is almost trying to be effortless.
Hmm.
The conscious is always think of effort. This is a struggle. This is like hard work, and like so that's what a leader is. It's like someone who's you again think about content. It's like these people who are like get up at 5 a.m. Like kind of like you're weak. You got to be strong. Like so all of that kind of content where it's encouraging you to have esteem, but not for your uniqueness.
Right,
It's like your
right.
esteem is based on your effort, on based on how much you sacrifice, how much you overcome your mind and your pleasures, like the Stoics. This is kind of like the Stoic level, you know?
Right, right. I used to see all these ads for people like to say, I'm gonna churn now, basically. I'm gonna work hard now so that I can just do nothing later on. So they're really saying, I want to be conscious now and then be unconscious. They never look at this upper level, this superhero level. And I'd say high self-esteem people, they're so confident in who they are. When somebody affirms them, that person doesn't feel better about themselves. They actually feel better about the person affirming them because they're like, wow, you recognize that. And you say they inspire others without even trying.
Yeah, I love your description. You're saying it's similar. Yeah, you're saying that when someone affirms them, they like it because for the other person because it allows because it's like showing that other person that that these people exist. It's kind of giving evidence
Part
that
part of that is, but you think about some of the areas where people affirm you and go, Jason, you're so good, like with like the food stuff. You know
yeah,
you're good at the food stuff.
yeah.
So you're not going to feel better about yourself. It's not you don't feel bad, but you don't feel better because they said it, but you recognize, oh, you understand. I can remember when I was explaining to you, I eat an apple a day and I do these things, and you're like, oh, you understand the biome thing. Like you were impressed with me
Hmm.
because I said something you already knew. You weren't impressed with, you didn't take it as something more about you. So we all have an area. If you think about it, where's an area of your life where someone affirms you? You know you're good at that. You actually are impressed that people see that in you. What we're talking about here, though, is which of these four categories are you getting most of your content? Are you getting your content in an area that's truly helping bring out more of your uniqueness so that you can do it without trying? Or are you getting your content from somebody trying to motivate you to, work hard and accomplish? Or are you getting your content from somebody who's just trying to get likes and you're just putting stuff out to get likes? or are you getting your content from people who are just pulling pranks on people?
Yeah, and I just want to go back to the superhero thing. It's like what I learned, and this is all thanks to Instant Impact and you and everything, your books. Um, when you're in the conscious, the leader, you're like, I got to get. And I hear people, a lot of people I know are in this area, like they want to get good at everything. I should learn how to do the video editing. I should learn how to do Instagram. I should learn how to do this. So the conscious is like, if I put a lot of effort in, I'm going to get the reward.
Right.
And then I even say, you do that for 20 years, you're going to get good at a lot of things. So, but for me, I had to learn that I got really good at, let's say, 4 or 5 things. And I'm constantly like, which one should I market? Which one should I put on my website? But then I learned from you to look, that what my unique drivers are, but also how to look for the energy, what was giving me energy. And I had to look at the 5 things that I do and say, which one gives me the most energy? And it was actually
Right.
the Wheel of Bliss. So, so the superhero is when you have to let go of the trying. And this is, again, all the top level, it takes a certain spiritual understanding, like it's not, it's not like, it's not easy to explain this, but in this category, it's recognized. Like me doing Wheel of Bliss is something that takes no effort for me. It's my natural state, you could say. So the cooking was something I learned, and I love doing it. It's my art form. It's one of my favorite ways to express. But the superhero, it's like, and so consuming that content again. I suspect a lot of people don't consume that content because it's like, why am I going to listen to this guy? He's got it. He's got it made. Everything came easy to him because they're more impressed by the people, the leader level, because like they look like they're working hard. I overcame this struggle, but the superhero, they
It's
had to go through
Jim.
that.
It's superheroes, Jim. The
Yeah.
issue is that conscious level is the person who's achieved all this money,
Uh huh.
and we all think, oh, that's what you want. But Jim is Jim.
Right. Right.
Jim is Jim, and he knows who he is. He's known who he was as a kid. He knew
Yeah.
who he was well enough to realize I don't want to go through what these other kids went through and lose who I am. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to protect it. And
Good
really,
point.
that's what's so tough about the superheroes. We're not talking about being rich. We're talking more about, you said, a spiritual thing, and really being who you were made to be. And it may or may not be rich. The rich thing is an effect. So I think Jim serves as a great example. But what I like is this fourth column is really where you and I, these last 2 columns is where you and I really like to have all these discussions.
Mm-hmm.
But these columns are dependent on the previous one. So this next column, the mental, the understanding, the air, this column is really dependent on the previous 2. So as much as somebody wants to say where they are in this column, the issue is you really can't get ahead in this column if you're not up to that level in the previous 2. So let's look at that. The lowest level of understanding in the mental ability is deception. So truth is a right what with a right why. I'm sorry, it's a right what with a right how and a right why. Deception's a right what with a wrong or no how and why. So there's no such thing as a half truth. But a lot of people say a half truth is a deception. So people look at a right what, a fact, and they go, that's true. It's just a fact. The truth depends on how you're going to use it and what's behind it. And so this is where people get deceived, and it's very harmful. It's very destructive to be at this lower level. And that's what's really happening. Somebody could point to the hedonistic, the manipulation, the shameless, and say, but it makes me laugh. It does. That's a right what? Okay. It's entertaining, right?
Right. Right.
But what's the how and the why? What's it doing to your brain, and how are you going to use this? And you're really at deception. If you start reading across this column, you are deceived if you're embracing those previous 3.
I like that. I like that. And yeah, like deception is almost like you could think of it as lying. And remember, this is also, it's not just the content we're talking about deception. It's the mental is how you use your mind brain. So this is teaching you to be a liar.
Right.
So if you watch certain content, like this happens all the time, and the person gets exposed as a liar. You might have heard the Liver King.
Yep.
I got to do something side note because I'm the fiber king because of the Liver King. This guy said you got to eat nothing but liver, and he just had a breakdown and threatened Joe Rogan, and he got arrested.
Right.
And he was caught on taking steroids. A thing came out, and he narcissistically said blamed other people for him taking steroids somehow, and still maintains his fan base. You know, and I want to do like a side by side picture of because we're about the same age too, and he looks like he's a lot older.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's crazy,
Oh, wow.
but the point is, if someone like that, if you know someone has been exposed and you're still following them, you're in this bottom category. You're asking to be, and as you say, you do to yourself what you do to others. So if you're able to be that deceived, if that's you're spreading this toxic, because again, the mind, I love the mind. The mind is like this amazing quantum computer, the brain. And so this is really using it in the worst possible way, because a lie is almost like a virus. It's almost like a computer virus. Like you're literally, you know, spreading that onto other people.
Right. Right. So the next level up is mainstream. And again, if you go straight across, it's all mainstream stuff. This is where the 93 or 94% of people are. And I like to talk about this as being propaganda versus art. Art, my definition of art is the person's unique expression of truth. And so that if there's that truth in it, it'll survive. Propaganda is a person's expression that doesn't include truth. So they have to be alive to keep pushing it. When they die, the propaganda dies because there's nobody to push it. So this second level is mainstream level. And again, if you go straight across, you can see it. So this next two levels is the level where you and I love talking about this. And this
Right.
is really where I think a lot of what we want to do with the audience is help them realize this. The next level up in mental understanding is analysis. And this is a Western thought pattern. And it's basically we take things apart down to facts. You look at something, and analysis takes it apart, figures out what each part does, tries to improve it, and put it back together. So podcast and research is all a lot of facts. Pop psychology, a lot of facts with an understanding, like you said, one understanding behind it. The leader thing, wow, they're making a lot of money. So analysis is where a lot of people are at because our brains naturally work according to analysis.
Exactly. And it doesn't understand the whole. It can only see the function of the parts, even though we know a system is greater than the sum of the parts, which is what synthesis is. But also, yeah, the analysis level of thinking is very it's like it's very exhausting, and that's how our education system in school. If you're smart in school, it means that you're good at analysis.
Right.
Like in terms of like memorizing things, but and
And
not
sorting through to
questioning.
get the one little answer. I
Exactly.
understand this whole thing because I got this one answer right.
And one last thing is think about how our science is looking to find the ultimate reality. They're trying to find a smaller and smaller particle. They think that if they find that there's going to be a fundamental particle, whereas Buddhism says that's never going to happen.
Right. So in fact, what's happened is when I was a kid, they could tell you what the smallest particle is. Now they can get it down to like four particles. And if any one of those is around, there's nothing. So they've now gotten down to it's all nothing. So you're right about Buddhism that way. So you already said the top level synthesis. This is holistic. This is an Eastern way of looking at things. This is seeing the whole. And here's the critical thing that I really want to say to all our viewers. Our brains naturally work according to analysis. Our brains naturally look at things and put them in categories. And there was a cover story on Harvard Business Review about categorical thinking. I believe it was 2018, but it might have been 2019 in the fall. There were 3 articles, and basically they showed there's 4 issues with categorical thinking, and I'll illustrate it with what it looks like to use analysis on people. If we lined up a group of people one by one by skin color, we at some arbitrary point would say, these people are black and these people are white. Now notice, the 2 people who are next to each other, you probably couldn't even tell a difference. But the minute you go black and white, you've accentuated a difference. These 2 people are, you can't even tell apart. Nope, one's black, one's white. The second thing you've done is you've minimized the uniqueness. Everybody in this category is now called white. Everybody in this category is now called black. Then what the brain immediately does is value it. Well, why did we categorize them? What's the difference between them? Well, here's the difference between them. This is better than this, then this is better. Now we put a value on it. And then the fourth thing is we've fossilized. We will not break that categorization. We'll hold on to it. So if you think about it, people love to brag about their ability to do analysis. I'm really good at analysis. I'm really good at breaking things apart. Awesome. That's everybody's brain. You've driven your brain even more towards that. But that thought process is the reason we have sexism and racism in the world. The reason we have sexism and racism is if your first step in anything is analysis, breaking it apart, which comes naturally, you're going down this deceptive path. You're going towards racism and sexism. And what you said, you're never going to find the answer that way. The answer is always going to come if your first step is backwards. If your first step is to look at the system or look at the next bigger system. That's something I always understood from synthesis thinking. When I met you, Jason, and you started explaining Buddhism to me, we were talking the same language. We learned it from 2 different groups, but we completely understood each other and valued each other because we're both like, yeah, not everybody does this analysis or this. I do this backward step or synthesis or holistic thinking. And so that's how we kind of really bonded immediately and got each other. And that's what we really want to do for our audience. You are not going to be able to make this move to synthesis without also making this move to resiliency, without also making this move in self-esteem. So this podcast is looking for people who are at the analysis level. They're smart. They're not in the mainstream. They're not just looking, they want a why, and they want to grow into this very uncomfortable opposite or synthesis thinking. So what do you think of that, Jason?
That was so well said, and you really explained the Buddhist process so well, and I got some insight just listening to the if you on face value you might think of the Buddhist practice as being analysis, but it's actually what you said. It is a stepping back, because even though you're looking at, can you find the self in the body? Okay, if it's in the body, where is the self? Is it in the heart? Is it in the brain? Is it in the ear? But you're not analyzing. You're actually saying it's not there. Take a step back, and you just keep looking to find things, and it forces you to look at the bigger, until you find that it's actually, instead of trying to get down, you're trying to get back to the system. And the one thing I just want to say, add to that, because again, so well said, is people who are at that level of, again, this is a spiritual, like, it requires
Very spiritual. This is very
anybody who
spiritual.
genuinely can get here has to have gone through the conscious level, the level before this, and then have let go of it. Because you let go of it because you notice, for example, with the body, it's so complex, but yet there are forces keeping it together, keeping the system together. Same thing with your brain. Same thing with so many things in nature. So it's almost like a synthesis thinker is much more relaxed than the analysis thinker, because to the analysis, anything can go wrong. Everything is probability. But when you're in the synthesis thinker, you realize, like, this is a system, almost like the cells in our body. don't they're all conscious beings technically. They're moving, like you take a cell out of your body, put it in a petri dish, it'll move towards food and move away from harm.
Toxins, yeah.
It doesn't know that it's part of this bigger system, that we're taking care of it. So when you think about, you know, humanity, you could think of us as that level. So it's so relaxing to know that there's going to be people who are going to compliment me and who are going to be there for me. There's like, like that there's some higher force, and that higher force, we can't see it. And that's why scientists could never ever explain it, because it's that concept. The definition of holistic, people throw that word around. It means like whole foods, right? Like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So when you eat an
Right.
orange, there's hundreds of chemicals in there. Everyone's like fats, carbs, and proteins, but there is phytonutrients that we haven't even discovered all of them. We're still discovering them. They all work together to have an effect.
But you just did it. It's like, oh, there's fats, carbs, proteins. Just categorical thinking.
Yeah.
I just want to feel like I understand it and I've mastered it. So, and you're right. The minute one thing is off, if you're going to live an analysis, you're going to be really anxious. So you think about it, this analysis step, the mainstream says, I don't want to live that tense life. There's no reason for anything. It's just, I'm just about a what, and I don't want to have a why for anything. And that has its own issues. Everybody who's taken that step in analysis and looks for a why, they're experiencing this tension, and it is going to wear them out long term. I love what you're saying. Now that you've stepped into that, so it took some courage to step up from mainstream analysis and step in that tension. Now let go of it. Give up
Mm-hmm.
control and let's move up. And it is very much a spiritual effort. So with all of that being said, now we can go to this last column. And this is really where you and I probably spend more than 50% of our time discussing. So in this last column, which you would call ultimately the spiritual or the bliss column, the bottom level, you have nihilism. So do you want to explain nihilism?
Yeah, and I would also call it the balance column, because it's very dependent on all the previous stuff.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and this whole thing, spiritual, does kind of come after the synthesis, because, like I was saying just now, like you start to see these patterns. Synthesis is pattern recognition. So you start to see these patterns that don't have a like they're not easily explained by evolutionary theory, because evolutionary theory, whether most people realize it or not, is basically the central dogma of our world. Is
Mhm.
so so everything had to have come from unconscious parts, and then we evolved more. But you start to realize there's like this intelligence. So then you're like, well, there must be something more. It's like, and that's where the spiritual comes in. It's the unseen forces. So
Mhm.
yeah, so nihilism is there's nothing beyond the five senses. There's no like I could do anything I want as long as I get away with it. Then I'm good.
Right. So for the watchers here, for our viewers, Jason and I are very much believes in metaphysics. So we can understand life. We can understand consciousness. We both believe that. And so that's why we want to progress from analysis to synthesis. So we believe that. There's this concept of existentialism. So existentialism is basically meaning. I want to search for meaning. I want to understand the meaning of what's going on. We believe you can find that meaning. Existentialism is trying to do that. And then what happens is that people end up going, wait a minute, if we can't find the meaning, because if we can't find the meaning, then there is no meaning. And if you can't tell me what the meaning is, there is no meaning. So French philosopher Camus said there's really three issues that have, or three choices here, because what he said is basically he's looking at people and saying, you know what, you learn more, if you really are learning more and can explain more, why are you still miserable? So if you think about it, this feeds right into the Wheel of Bliss. It's like you and I, Jason, are very much people who believe you can understand it, and the proof you understand it is you end up in bliss.
Right.
And Moo said, these people say you can understand it, but they're all miserable. So they're not, so he was saying they really don't understand it. He was right. They don't understand it. So to him, one option was suicide. He was saying that's one option. And he never advocated for it. And that's not an option. But he was saying, when you realize, wait, I can't understand what's going on, you go that way. The second option is leap of faith. And that's where he'd say religion. Now, again, religion would be more in this unconscious level. Religion is, hey, I believe in this thing and I can't explain it. So he said that's an option. The third option is, and he said this is what basically people end up doing, is they agree as to the utter meaninglessness of the universe, but they still find meaning in the individual. My experience has meaning,
Hmm.
but the whole thing has no meaning. And so the nihilists basically say, look, why be a hypocrite? If 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 it all ultimately means nothing, how can you enjoy even the things you think you have meaning? Because eventually the sun's going to absorb the earth. It's all going to mean nothing. So you, idiot, are sitting here thinking this has meaning because you can feel this, but in reality, none of it has any meaning. So why not just quit, stop being a hypocrite and just embrace that? Now, the opposite of approach to that is what you've already talked about was hedonist. Is if it all doesn't have meaning and it's just a feeling, I'm just going to go for the feeling. And so there's people who do that. But as we progress up this path, what we're talking about here is really people are miserable in this bottom level. And it is because they cannot explain the meaning of their existence. That's the real issue and why people are miserable.
Yeah, I would say there's almost like a purposeful, there's some deep type of resistance, though, also to the bliss, because the bliss is our natural state. So
Okay, so let's work our way up there to see that because I agree with that. What is pushing on that? So if you look at it, the next level up, and Camus said this is that blind faith.
right. So yeah, blind faith is exactly. It's like you just have one answer to explain everything, so you never have to actually be in that spiritual place. It's like I got. I remember once I saw like a one of these Hasidic Jews, and I asked him. I said, are you happy with this?" He's like, "Everything's easy. Everything is God. I don't have to really think about anything." So
And I talk about Calvinists are the same thing.
exactly. So yeah, it's almost again like, without getting too into the philosophical, why someone would be so afraid of bliss, but there's people who are afraid of getting hugged. There's people who are afraid of being touched. So the bliss is the highest possible experience possible. But I guess it's almost like the blind faith is like, I want to put like a stop on it, because to experience, well, I guess ultimately, the lower you go, the more attached you are to your individual ego. You see it more of a self and other. That's really what in Buddhism, how it would be explained. Like, so in the nihilism, because you can't see the synthesis, you can't see that you're part of anything. So you say like, yeah, I'm gonna die. Most of life is suffering. Like, I might have a few moments of joy. Why not kill myself now? The blind faith is not that much happier, very miserable, but at least they can control that misery. Like, something terrible happens. Oh, God save me. Something bad happens. Oh, God's testing me. So it's no, it's they don't really have to take much responsibility either.
Right. So I've heard you say that the nihilism, the miserable people, it's nihilism is over denial of what is. So what
Oh,
you're
right,
saying
right.
is you're denying the greater reality, and blind faith is adding more than is there. So
Exactly.
So the thing is, though, is the blind faith this level. If the bottom people, if the people in the bottom of this column are miserable, the people in the blind faith are dull.
Hmm.
These people are dull because
Exactly.
they're not interesting to talk to. They're trying to convince themselves and others of something that we all know isn't true. There's no depth there. So at the
Right.
very least, I would hope that everybody wouldn't want to be dull and move up to the next level, which is this energized. You're an energized person at least, and you call this rapture. So do you want to explain what this column means?
Yeah, maybe I'll come up with another word, but it's like I see a lot of people who um they have all different backgrounds and then they find Jesus. It's usually, I hear it's very popular now, like they had this attack from a demon and then they never believed in Jesus and then they said, "Get away from me in the name of Jesus," and it worked. So there must be something, and they hold on to that experience, and they, a perfect example is, you see these churches where people are, I was going to say spazzing out, but like having all type of convulsions and stuff. Yeah, again, remember that third column is a lot of effort, and
Right.
so it's like whereas the next column we'll talk about in a second, it's a cool knowing, it's a cool like experience of the divine, as opposed to like
So it is very definitely, it's energized. It's a lot of effort. And the thing is, I call it an agnostic experience. It's definitely on the
Mhm.
experiential side. Somebody who's
Right,
who's taken a hallucinogenic, or someone who's almost
exactly.
died, or someone who's experienced a miracle is here. And it's hard, when you've experienced something like that, it's hard to stay down in that unconscious row. So
Hmm.
you notice you have that experience, it does kind of drag you up. And agnostic means you believe in God, but you don't know who God is. So you're like, I believe there's something bigger.
Something bigger, yeah.
I can't explain it, but I believe there's something bigger. Where finally, the wheel of bliss and stuff, you've called this dharma, or the path. So do you want to explain what this top level is?
Yeah, dharma in this sense, in this meaning of the path, is that you realize, I mean, this is again it's you got to get there, but it's this realization that you're not special because of your birth, you're not a victim. This is where you take responsibility and you see this life as a school where you have a choice, where no matter what horrible thing happens to you, it could be something to learn from. If you So you're approaching everything as an opportunity to, and we talk in Buddhism of the immeasurables or the perfections. These are things these are positive virtues that you could infinitely increase until you get to the highest level where, so, so basically, so this is the path of cultivating patience and generosity. So this is the path of not saying that like I need to take a hallucinogen to have that experience again, or I need to, do this many prayers to this deity. This is like, and that's the other thing. That's also why it's hard. Um, like the blind faith person, especially. It's like you can't like God by definition, or the ultimate by definition, is beyond your scope of consciousness. So they're trying to make God fit into their limited scope.
Right.
Dharma, you could see it as self transcendence. You know that to get closer to the divine, you have to go through a process of erasing the parts of you that are not there and revealing the parts that are there. Again, getting rid of the nihilism and blind faith. The, you're not adding and you're not subtracting. You're simply, you're simply finding your soul. We call it the Buddha nature. You're
Right.
finding you're finding what's there, and realizing that the thing that's keeping you from there is this this part of you that, again, that separation of self and other, and this part of you that is trying to control things basically and take
Right.
credit.
So if you look at that last column, the bottom, this nihilism is really, I'm never going to get the answers. And all of this really philosophy comes down to, are you a person who believes you're going to get the answers? You and I are. A lot of people don't believe you can get the answers. Then you're coping with not. Blind faith is really, how do I cope with not getting the answers? And then I get an experience. Maybe there are some answers, I just don't know them. This spiritual bliss, this Dharma path, I've heard you say it this way: you will get the answers. You have to walk the path of self perfection, which, that self perfection means getting rid of the things that are hindering you from
You,
getting there. So if you
you just
really think about it,
you just gave me. I want to say what you just said back. I love that. The nihilism is I'm never going to get the answers. The blind faith is I already have the answers. I don't have to search or grow anymore. The rapture is I'm special because I had this experience that other people don't have, and I could I could do what I did to get it to you, and I could be the guru. I could be the shaman that's going to lead you. And then the last path is realizing everybody's got it. Everybody has the pure soul, the same. And the fastest, I want to get to that as fast as possible. It doesn't make me better, but in the process, I can be helpful to others by not trying to get them to do it the way I did it, but pointing to that I had my path. You're going to have your own path, but the path exists. And here's some of what I went through, kind of thing. But you're going to have to go on your own path.
so viewers, this is what it's like when Jason and I hang out. We're both modelers, and I had a model, and then Jason just poetically capped that off perfectly. So I have nothing more to add to that. I just want to say that, again, the key to achieving that is to move up to the synthesis, which does depend on the previous two columns. That's sort of the global explanation there. But this is what season 2 is going to be like. We want to take you along on this journey. We want to bring you up to speed on this foundation. And we're certainly going to have some revelation along the way, because this is just what happens when Jason and I get talking. But this is all leading to the season 3, where, again, Jason's got this model for everything, and we want you to be a part of this community and be able to talk with us and talk with other people and explain this and give people the answers. So please join us for this season.